We're going to talk about linebackers. I'm going to turn my mic off and let you cook. And we were having a debate whether, hey, should we lump the cheetah position into this discussion or not? And maybe that describes the cheetah position perfectly. Like, is he a linebacker? Is he a safety? Is he both? What is he? But we decided to lump the cheetah into this conversation as well. But Ted, let's start with the inside backers. You've got a new linebacker coach, new defense coordinator in Zach Alley. But when you think about what you're trying to see from this group throughout the spring, the growth you're trying to witness for this group as a whole, the conversation starts with Danny Stutsman.
Yeah, it does. Well, first, let's talk about Zach Alley a little bit. I really like Ted Roof, respected him a ton as a linebacker coach and as a defensive coordinator. I do think that the there's going to be more of a seamless connection between Zach Alley and Brent Venables, and that's going to come with the defense overall. That's also going to come with the linebacker position. Zach Alley learned what he knows about the linebacker position directly from Brent Venables, and you're going to see that. The drills, the meeting room, there is a definite method to the madness with Coach Venables, and you're going to see they're going to be more synced up. Zach Alley and Venables are than what Roof and Venables were before, and that's nothing against Roof. It's just a simple fact that Zach Alley and Brent Venables have been together longer. Danny Stutsman, I'm thrilled that he's back. I think he made a good decision, a smart decision. I think the biggest thing for Stutsman is a leadership role, obviously on the defense, and he's been good about that in the past. But leadership, it's like a lot of other things. It changes in the expectations in leadership more. And we all know how good of a player Danny Stutsman is. The next step for a player like Danny is how good can you make the players around you, not just how good of a player are you. And that comes from leadership, that comes from mentoring, that comes from like taking guys under your wing, holding guys accountable, being forceful about it whenever you need to. I think that's the next step for him as a leader on and off the field. As a player, I think Danny has first his strengths. I think he's a really good tackler. I think he is a really good playmaker that has really strong instincts. I think he does a really good job on the line of scrimmage, whether they're playing the bear front and he's like the stand-up edge guy, or whenever he lines in a tough position in an A or B gap where he's up in the gap. I think he does some really good things out of that. Like if he's part of a blitz and part of a twist package, he does a really good job with that. I think he is massively improved in his underneath zone coverage. And a lot of the reason why he's good is just because he has a great frame for it. He's 6'4", he's long arms, he's a big guy out there that covers a lot of space in a quarterback's vision. I think the biggest improvement that he can make is block protection against offensive linemen. He ends up on the ground too much, and I think it's common. I think it's the last thing to come for a college linebacker because it's the hardest thing. You are, often giving up 100 pounds against these guys, and you're trying to decipher where they're going. Where do I fit? Where's the ball carrier? Is it play action? Like there's a lot going on before a linebacker actually diagnoses the play and is in, 100% downhill taking on a blocker mode. But I think that's where he can see the most improvement. He's not bad there. It's just, I think, kind of the last frontier for him as a player. And that's just natural in his progression. I think he last year was, of massive improvement on where he had been previously. And last year to this year, there's not going to be a massive improvement. At least what we see watching him, the improvement is going to come in consistency, in pad level, in technique, in being in the right place more often, in grading higher, in getting guys lined up quicker, in telling people what the play is before they snap the ball, and all of those things, I think, is where you're going to see Stutsman improve. It's just going to be harder to see visually, because the year before to last year, we saw, look lost at times, missing tackles. I mean, it's easy to see a big improvement from where he was the year before to last year. It's going to be harder to see it from where he was last year to this year, but it's going to be there. But if I had to pick the one thing that he needs to improve on, it's the block protection.
I think if I added anything, it would just take away from how good of the breakdown, how good that was. So I'm just not going to add anything. I think you kind of nailed it, man.
Well, I think there'll be things to add, and we'll see after we watch him in spring ball a little bit and see what the next things he needs to do are. But all that to say, I think Stutsman is in an excellent position to be an all SEC type of player, to be in a position to be an All-American, an award winner at the end of the year. And a lot of that is obviously how he is as an individual player, where I think this defense is going to be. And the dude is a massive personality that is entertaining as hell to watch. And I think the rest of the country is going to see a lot more of that this year with him in the SEC.
No doubt about it. Now, when you look at the inside backer group right now through these couple spring practices, it's been Stutsman and Kip Lewis running with the first group. You've had Kobie McKinzie and Jaren Kanak running with that second group. Ted Kip is he's still light. He's like, you want that 214 number to be 220. In an ideal world, he's 225, but he's light, but the guy can play. I mean, the instincts it was so clear watching him last year that he just has a natural ability when it comes to getting to the football. But what's in this spring, kind of what's the next step for Kip?
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Kip has tremendous instinct. There's typically two type of players at linebacker, and you're not A or B, you're like somewhere in the range of this type of player. You have kind of the instinctual player that plays off his physical gifts, uses speed and athleticism and instincts to find the football. And then you have the player that, how do I fit in the defense? What is my responsibility? And I build from there. And I think Kip is the instinct-driven player. And I think you can have unbelievable players from both sides of that equation. The instinctual player excels in the run game and in plays that happen right now, right? My instinct says he's cutting back, and a lot of times you're right. My instinct says this is a run, you're selling out downhill right away. Where you get in trouble is oftentimes in football, the play goes past your instincts. And even though my instincts say that it's a run and they're going over here, well, it may be play action. Your pass responsibility is over there. And it's usually the pass game, like where you fit in zone coverage, like all of those things. Like you can't bail on your responsibility because what your instincts are saying. And you have to learn that a little bit. And I think Kip, because of that, like I would say what he needs to improve on the most is his pass responsibilities, pre and post snap communication stuff, making sure you're in the right place. And it's kind of the same progression you see from everyone. I would say it's the same thing we saw from Danny. Like The mental mistakes he needs to cut down on, the aggressiveness, the tackling, all of those things are really good. It's cleaning up the consistency aspect of it, the mental aspect of it, making sure you know your responsibility and you lock down your responsibility before you let the instincts take over. He's light at 214. It appears that he's a hard gainer. I mean, those guys exist. I'm not I'm not beat up about the fact that he's 214. I think he can absolutely thrive at 214. But you got to play lower. You got to have better technique. You got to be smarter. Like everything that you're giving up from being smaller, you have to be that much better at all of the other ends of it, and that's going to be difficult for him. It's easier just to run around and be the biggest, fastest, strongest guy on the field. We can't all be that, so we got to find a way to take advantage of what we have and mitigate the downside of what we don't. So he just needs to get better technique wise, play lower, be lined up in the absolute perfect place. Don't give anything up before the snap. I think that's the biggest thing for Kip Lewis.
Seems like you know a lot about linebacker play. I'm just, as I sit here and listen to this, I I'm not going to add anything because it will just make it worse.
But it doesn't, it's all like just intuitive stuff though. It's not like there's any like real deep thought put into it, is it?
Well,
Doesn't it
yeah,
seem that way?
linebacker's easy. I mean, that's why you can take the dumbest player ever and put him at linebacker.
Right.
But now looking at the other guys, you want to have what, at least four that you feel really good about, because there's going to be guys that get banged up. You know, you're going to want to rotate some guys, especially early in the season. Maybe you're in a game where really hot type of situation, but Jaren Kanak has played a lot of snaps. We've seen Kobie McKinzie at times. When you look at those two guys that seem at this point to be the initial backups in the inside backer spots, what are you kind of looking for from those two?
I think Kobie McKinzie is due to have a really good year. And it wouldn't shock me if he ended up being the starter at Mike. You know, whenever Danny and Kip are out there, Danny plays the Mike and Kip plays the Will. But Danny, they've wanted him to play the Will backer. That's been his spot. And Kobie is a Mike backer. So I and that's what Kanak was playing, was the Mike as well last year. So, you know, I think Kobie, he's had a really good offseason. Again, he's stacked a couple of really nice off seasons together. He's really worked on his body composition. He's lost some weight. He's moving better. But he is still, even though he's lost some weight, he's still a really good in the box linebacker. He's heavy handed. Like, he knocks linemen back. He's a knockback tackler. You know, whenever he meets a guy in the hole. I really like what I've seen from. He's a good blitzer, and he's really smart. Kobie McKinzie is really smart. He sees the whole picture really well. I think he needs to work on processing speed, being able to process faster. You know, naturally, whenever you're typically when you're a good in the box thumper Mike backer, you struggle a little bit in the pass game, right? Mentally, you're thinking, I hope they run the damn ball. So you struggle a little bit in the pass game, and I think that's where, not that he's bad there, I just think that that's where he could have, you know, a lot of improvement. Mike Backer's bumped out of the box over the number 3 wide receiver a bunch, so they put you in space, and he's improved a lot in space. But route progressions, where he fits in the you know, the pass coverage, I think Kobie could work on that. Moving backwards is always more difficult than moving forwards. I think he could work there. Like I said, he's a really good blitzer, and he's a great tackler in the box. Out of the box, it's more difficult, right? You're faster guys in space. You know, in the box, it's about your physical your presence, your punch, like bringing your lower half with you whenever you're making a tackle. He's great at that. Outside of the box, it's your eyes, right? How you tackle with your eyes and your position on the football, knowing where your help is, angles, trying to pin a guy in either by another player, by the sideline. All of that's happening at once. And I think Kobie can improve as a tackler outside the box, but that goes for all these guys because that's the hardest thing. That's something that you're always working on there. But if he can get down, if he can make improvements in his pass game defense, the zone stuff, tackling outside of the box, and just kind of overall understanding of the defense, which I think he's going to have. Like, you may see a massive jump from him because he's smart. He's smart in a sense where, like, like whenever you talk to him, there's a deeper level of process going on there mentally, which I really like. So I think the ceiling for Kobie McKinzie is incredibly high, and it wouldn't shock me if we saw a massive jump with him this spring.
And you're hoping you're seeing a similar jump with Kanak, right? Because we know the physical tools are there. The speed is there. He's sitting at 226 pounds right now, which maybe it's a little lighter than you want him to be, but I mean, he showed moments last year and almost showed his best moments once he lost his starting job, where he was playing maybe a little freer. I don't know. You would know better than I would, but he's a guy that they're going to need, and he needs to improve a lot throughout the spring.
I think when I see Kanak play, he reminds me of myself in a sense that, he's not limited by his size. He's got great size. He's not limited by his athletic ability. He's great top speed. He can fly. He's really agile. Like, when you go out there and you watch the linebackers do the drills, Jaren Kanak is the guy that you say, that's the best player. He's super fluid. He's smart. He knows the defense. I'm not saying he's perfect. He makes mistakes, but what holds him back is the fear of making a mistake, fear of not lining up right, fear of missing the tackle. The coach is like in his head constantly. It's all he's thinking about. So he tries to go too fast, and he's tight, and he's always pressing, and he's been there long enough now to where he's probably going to relax this spring. At least I hope he relaxes. And that's why it looked like he was playing his best football after he got replaced, is because at that point you just kind of say, well, screw it. Right. And you just go out there and you play free and you play fast, and you're not as worried about making a mistake to lose your job because that bad thing has already happened. So I think that is what has held Kanak back a little bit. I think there's going to be a big jump with him, but the bottom line is we got a bunch of guys that could play, and there's 2 spots. That's what's crazy. And I think we're in a really good spot depth wise. I hope everyone stays engaged. And I think Kanak can get better with just an overall understanding of the defense, to where, like, whenever you're worried about messing up, eliminate everything that you can. And the easiest way to eliminate the most mistakes and the most thinking and being in your own head is to know everything without even thinking about it, to where it's second nature. And you can eliminate all of that and then just worry about playing football. He'll be able to free up that athleticism. I think that Kanak probably, like all things being equal, probably has the highest ceiling of anyone there. It's whether or not he can like just kind of allow it to happen, to get in the right place mentally, to trust it, to have confidence. Like you can tell the difference. You take the same exact player and watch them play and know that they have confidence. It looks totally different than a guy that's unsure, that is afraid of making a mistake, that's, am I in the right place? Do I belong? The same guy can look totally different. And I think that's what we've seen at times with Kanak.
The other two names at this point, and we'll see how the inside backer room develops over these next couple months, but Lewis Carter is a name that comes up a lot. Dude is an absolute ball of muscle. And then Samuel Omosigho is a guy that, you know, they're kind of trying to figure out where he fits in this defense. But you look at his size, 6'2", 227. He is a good looking football player already, even though he's still a young guy. But those are the other two names really to know for this inside backer group. Where do you kind of see those guys fitting?
It's really hard to say. Haven't seen a whole lot of these guys. I know Lewis Carter. I love the size that he is. He's 6 foot. He's a little shorter than kind of the rest of the group, but he's up in the 220s. He's super explosive. He is, explosive side to side movement. Whenever he sees it and comes downhill, he's aggressive as hell. Has tremendous instincts and just football player. Is kind of how you label him. I just haven't seen a whole lot of him. If he was able to get up to speed with everyone else in the knowledge department of the defense, of how to play, how to run the system, how to be in the system, how it all fits together, if he could get to the same level as everyone else in that department, I think he could compete for one of those jobs, no question. It's just whether or not he can get there. And he's one of those guys that whenever he's kind of like Kip in a sense, that when he makes a play, it's loud, right? It's like, whoa, who is that guy? So whenever there's a player that stands out on film the way Lewis Carter does, if you eliminate a lot of the mental mistakes and we just get into this frame where we see a bunch of loud, aggressive, nice plays, you find yourself on the football field really quick, because the bottom line is it's about production. And he's one of those guys that you feel like if he's out there and he plays 65, 70 snaps a game, he's going to produce. So I think he may be the wild card, like where he fits in this rotation and in this competition this spring. I'm not exactly sure. It wouldn't shock me if he's a guy that's still like what you would call on the 3 deep, like not really in that full 2-man rotation. But also wouldn't shock me if all of a sudden like he's rotating in at will backer and getting some reps with the first team.
I will say, when you walk out there, you see Lewis Carter and you go, is that an NFL running back? Like
Yeah.
he is built. That's kind of his build. It's like a between the tackles running back.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it all comes together for them. I'm intrigued by Omosigho just because I think he's kind of a long, athletic guy that can really, really run. You got Phil Pichotti still coming off the knee injury, so not going to hear much from him, if at all, in spring ball. We'll see what it looks like after summer workouts. But the group as a whole, the inside backer group, it does feel it feels deeper. I feel as good about it as I felt in quite some time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like the mix of there's just a great mix of player guys that have different strengths and weaknesses, like different size. You got Stutsman who's 6'4", 240, down to a guy like Lewis Carter who's 6 foot, maybe under, and 220 plus pounds. Like a bunch of guys that have like tremendous athletic upside. The whole group can run. The whole group is strong in the weight room, and there's tremendous upside. And I I'm as happy with where we are at backer right now. It's the best. I mean, we've talked about what, 6 guys here. It's the best 6 guys at inside backer we've had at Oklahoma at the same time in as long as I can remember. I mean, we went from a position of pure weakness where only Stutsman has played any amount of snaps at all to where, as we sit today, I'd be comfortable with most any of the guys in this group starting on a given Saturday. And that is rare.
It's rare, but it doesn't surprise you at all when your head football coach is Brent Venables.
Yeah, I know. They're
It's kind of the expectation.
Like, it's going to be 8 players by this time next year, 10. But I mean, we'll have more inside backers on the roster than anyone.